Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So June has passed and we are making some headway into July now. So it's only about fair that I put a hobby update out. For those of you also in the UK or in Europe in general, it has been a sweltering 4 weeks or so. I think it's currently about 26 degrees in the study here where I do most of my hobbying. But at times on the hottest days it's been reaching 30, 31 degrees. So that has slowed the painting a little bit, but I've then been building some more figures. But overall in the last 6 weeks, been plenty of gaming, a little bit of painting that I'll show off, and not too many purchases, mainly books. But anyway, that's enough of my face. Let's get cracking and look at some miniatures. So starting off, we've got the last couple of bits that I needed to add to my epic pike and shot English Civil War collection ahead of the game I was putting on at the Broadside show earlier in June. Now I'll talk about the Broadside show a little bit later, but in essence, massive success, got everything painted, was really nice to see it on the tabletop. So this was the 9th Regiment of Pike and Shot that I've painted, and this is the Earl of Manchester's regiment. Took a little bit of a historical liberty with the cuffs. It's not very clear what coat colour they wore, but there's mention of green with either red or gold trim. I'm not painting trim at this scale, so the cuffs will add a little bit of colour. And having just painted the Earl of Newcastle's regiment in their grey coats, I thought it was best to just do a little bit more colour. But more tips and details around how I paint them in the guide that I've made around Epic Pike and Shot. But for the moment, it's kind of complete as a project. I will return to it. I've probably got around 40% of the box to get through to expand other bits, but there's 2 good size armies painted and that will let me get onto something new. I needed to do some scenery as well, and I had these kind of hanging around in my bits box. I think these are gabions. I don't even know if they're period appropriate. I'm sure someone might enlighten me that actually these are ACW or something like that. But they seem kind of nice to fit in some artillery guns. You can fit 3 of the Warlord Epic artillery bases behind it. So it's just something a bit nice. I quite like painting a small piece of terrain every now and again. It's nice that you don't have to do too much detail. You just whack it on with a dry brush. You can be a bit messy. It's all about that 3-foot rule effect. I mean, that looks pretty nice. Matches in well because I've copied the basing, which is, I think, always really important. But that will probably be the last epic unit I paint this year until I make a return soon. That will probably be more focused on cavalry and some of the other units. But it's good to hit a hobby goal, a hobby objective. But anyway, moving on to other things. So with the epic project done for the moment, I could start something new, and it is some medieval 28mm force. It's like 13th century Barons' War era, which I think is really stereotypical medieval. You've got your smelly peasants, your kind of colourful knightly knights, and then your mounted sergeants, which I haven't painted any of them up yet. These are all the Wargames Atlantic range, all the new plastics, really enjoyable to build up. So we've been playing a lot of Saga at the club, and we bought Saga Age of Chivalry last year, and this is kind of my army for it. I know it's slightly too early. The Age of Chivalry is supposed to be Wars of the Roses or 100 Years War, but for me this is typical medieval, and I just wanted an excuse to paint the models, really. So we've got 12 peasants with missile weapons. So we've got a couple with sling. There's one there, and the other one is here. It's running at the with his dagger. I think that the peasants box was my favourite to build. They're really characterful. I mean, just look at him. That's telling the enemy to go and do one, basically. They were a lot of fun to paint. I wanted to avoid... It's getting that mix of, I didn't want to just paint them all in browns, but I didn't want to paint them in as brighter colours as the knights. I wanted the knights to stand out a little bit. So, you know, the blues are the same here. So look at this knight here. These are not based on any particular baron of the time. But he's got the yellow stripe down the sides, replicated with this foot model as well. Different shields, but in spirit they are the foot mounted version. And then this guy as well, this white and green, just a bit sticks out a bit more. There's a half pattern on the horse and a quarter pattern on himself there. Tip for painting the white, this is actually Vallejo Sky Grey. No white was used. It gives the same effect and the coverage is so much better. This was simply just one coat over a base coat and a wash, so much easier, much more doable. So I've painted up 12. These will be a point of levy, but 12 peasants with missile weapons. And I've got 3 foot knights. Here's another one here. They'll very much kind of come at me. And then 3 mounted knights as well. So originally for Saga, but I have tried Midgard this month. I'm really enjoying that. So maybe seeing these in Midgard as well. The shields are transfers by Wargames Atlantic. Was a bit mixed on these. I was expecting them to kind of be little Big Men Studio style ones where they kind of morph into the shield a bit better, but these are more traditional transfers. So as you can see, there's a bit of colour difference between the way I've painted the shield and the decal, but really it doesn't matter at that 3 foot range. And you'll have to trim the excess decal off around the sides. So this will be something that I'll be definitely painting more of. I've got some crossbowmen on the painting table, and then I think it will be another batch of knights, just to keep the batches small, because painting all those folds can take quite a bit of time, but really happy with the look of them. And the last thing I painted in the last 6 weeks is something a bit more out there. It's these Conflict 47 Mark 1 robots. I don't have a Conflict army, but this box was very kindly given to me from Dave by the Warlord events team. He gave it to me at Broadside a day early so I could get them painted up. I've made a video on building and painting them and a kind of bit of a review, but they were really fun to build and paint. Nice and simple, as I kind of painted them as a British tank in Italy. Slightly different scheme from what they are on the box. And yeah, I think I'll definitely paint up the other 8 of them, so I have 2 squads, and kind of see where it goes from there. I think unfortunately for Conflict, there might be a few other things that are ahead in the buying queue. But that's what I've painted, so what have I spent my pennies on? So the only miniatures I picked up this month, and I didn't pay for them, was very kindly gifted them by Warlord, was this set of Mark 1 automated infantry for Conflict 47. I've obviously built and painted 2 of them up and made a little video, but I will build and paint the rest up down the line when I want a panic cleanser. Unfortunately, I just don't think I've got the kind of time to invest in a full Conflict army at the moment, but these are really fun to build and paint, and I would eye up. If I was going to play Conflict, I'd definitely go for more of these robot guys. They're very fun. So that was all the miniatures for the last 6 weeks, but I did actually do some spends, and the first one is Midgard. So, and I won't really cover this in the games actually, but I played a tester game of Midgard. My mate Mark at the club had been doing some demos, and yeah, absolutely sold on it really. Really interesting with the heroes, but nice and simple on the other ones. It's a game you can get done in a club night, which is really important because that's where the majority of my gaming is. And also it kind of united the fantasy and historical players in my gaming group. We had lots of ideas. I've got a couple of Lord of the Rings, like Moria and Mordor armies from when I played Middle Earth, strategy battle game, so these can be used for this, but also using the like Saga Age of Vikings armies or the medieval stuff I showed earlier. So many possibilities. So absolutely one game and picked up from that. Expect to see some Sabo bases come in the next hobby update. And then the other one, which was a bit of a surprise, was I picked up another Saga book, Saga Age of Hannibal. This was because it was super cheap on the flea market at Broadside. This and 4 sets of the Saga dice, 2 of which are out of stock everywhere, was 50 quid, which is absolute bargain. Came with all the boards. They're all safely put away in their folder. Yeah, just no plans to build and paint directly for this, but with Age of Caesars coming, and this can work with Age of Caesars, I probably will maybe next year have a small kind of Carthaginian force. It'd be fun to paint in 28mm. I've always wanted to paint some 28mm ancients, but I simply don't have the space to do a kind of Hail Caesar size 28mm army. So maybe a little bit of Saga action would be the best way forward. So that was the free purchases or acquisitions of the month. Let's go over the games I played. So while this month's been a bit slower painting wise, it's been very busy gaming wise. I think with summer, I tend to do more gaming than painting and modelling. The rugby season is currently over and pre-season hasn't started, so that gives me a bit more spare time. So yeah, I've been really cramming the games in. So to start off, probably the highlight of the last 6 weeks was the Broadside Wargame Show hosted by Milton 100 in Gillingham, which is about half an hour drive from where I am. Yeah, fantastic show. Our club, the Canterbury Litterbourne Wargames Club, was our debut game, so to speak. It's not that fancy really, but we put on my Battle of Maidstone using Epic Pike and Shot. Really fun day. It was great because we could play it and chat to people about how the game plays, but not just have to then spend hours playing it. It's a game that's really done in 2 hours, so we could stretch it out over 5. Fantastically well attended show. They've clearly put some improvements into the show. I mean, I think attendance was up from 500 to 750, about 800. Lots of things to do, and it's really a show that gets that you need to have families there and young people and a variety of gamers. Yeah, have a couple of board game bits, a couple of trading card bits. It is still historically wargame focused, and you have all the traditional traders there, but there's just enough to get families and groups coming as well. I think there's a couple of other shows that may be a little bit more stuck in the past, but I think this is about gaming community, and it's great to see it grow. I'm really looking forward to next year. But that wasn't the only game I played. So at our monthly club meet, I played a game of Chain of Command against Mark. It was a continuation of our not quite pint-sized campaign, shandy-sized campaign maybe, where we faced off, again, the Americans versus the Germans. So last year in our patrol scenario, the Americans had successfully seized the village, as they both sides patrolled in, and now we did a kind of probing German attack north of the village. So it was a bit more fields, not as much cover for the Americans. It was a really, really close game, and came down right to the final dice roll. I think just a few too many American leaders were caught out in the open, and they failed their force morale check. So we're playing another game in August, which will be the continuation of that, where now the Germans have got a Panzer Grenadier platoon, and they're going to do an assault on the village proper this time. So that was lots of fun. Obviously been playing a few bits of Saga as well. I go to Wargames Club on Tuesday, the other club in Canterbury, and that's great for Saga because it's a little bit tired from the working day, only takes a couple of hours, fits on a 3x4 because it can be a bit cramped in that club. So I played a couple of games of Age of Vikings, and then just this Tuesday played our first, or kind of back to first game of Age of Chivalry, with some of the painted medievals there as well. I had one of those days where I couldn't help but roll 6s, and I felt awful for Mark, but I'm sure there'll be next update I'll be complaining that I couldn't roll anything but 1s. And then the final game I played was Midgard, of course. Really fun, just kind of taste of 200-point game. Had some eyes. I mean, we were playing the Vikings. We won of the first opening duels and then slowly got crushed by the Saxon shield wall. But really looking forward to playing more Midgard, and lots of people in my gaming group are buying into it. So we'll see a variety of kind of Lord of the Rings, wacky fantasy, and then early medieval and high medieval on the table. So yeah, that's all the games that I played. One thing I didn't mention in the painting update, I have been doing some more building in the heat. It's been hitting 30 degrees in my painting room, the study. So best to keep with the building. So I built all of the Italian Parascudisti box that I got for my birthday. I made 2 squads of paratroopers, a squad of RDT, and then some Italians with German equipment. And then at the moment, it's kind of not quite done, but I'm working on building a throuhg platoon using chain of command, but it will be for chain of command and bolt action, of course. You've got a kind of mostly the Warlord plastics, but with some of the Warlord tropical uniform metals sprinkled in as well. So as for the upcoming next month, off on holiday, so probably not going to get as much gaming in as I hoped, but I will definitely be painting up some more crossbowmen, maybe a tester figure for the throuhg, and then of course I also got the Russian Civil War project, which I may make its own video about. Anyway, until then, do your best to keep cool, and this is Wargamer of Kent signing out.